Well, good morning, guys. I have been away for the last week and haven't really looked at Fleabay here at all while I was gone, other than just in passing. But I sat down last night after I got back in town and discovered quite a few new listings. And seems like when I'm away for a week, why people get suddenly stupider here on Fleabay. So there's quite a few here I want to go through. And let's just start going through them. First one right off the bat is a rare Atlas milling machine table feed gearbox cover, yoke, and handle. Pre-owned, $129.99 with a buy it now and $10.25 shipping. So, and this is from a seller that we have talked about quite a bit before. He sells some new and used parts. Got good feedback and a lot of it, but this is the same seller that we've talked about before. Tries to sell new handles that fit the mill and the shaper that are the cast iron adjustment handle. We've already decided that that is the handle that's being manufactured now by Martin. His prices were about $60 here 2, 3, 4 months ago, 5 months ago, whatever it was. And they crept up very quickly to $99, and now I see they're up to $129.99 in shipping. So description says rare Atlas milling machine table feed gearbox cover, yoke, and handle assembly. And this is the outer cover and the handle, the stuff that you see basically on the milling machine for the power feed on the box. Now there's only 2 pictures here. This is the first one in its normal size, and this is the second one. This is a standard cover. Now my question is, why was this not sold with the rest of the gearbox? If you have this much of the assembly, why wouldn't you sell the complete assembly? So was the rest of the gearbox blown up, exploded, gears bound up, whatever the case may be? Has it been parted out separately that'll be sold later on, or already been sold, something like that? These parts are kind of hard to come by at this point in time. I'll say at this point in time, because there are always alternatives that are good alternatives for original parts. I see nothing that's non-usable about these parts, but you don't have a complete assembly. And if you've got this much, if you've got a box that you're trying to upgrade what you've got in it, this is not going to do you any good. So if you do need it, you need to be buying a complete assembly, and a complete assembly is probably worth, with the rarity of these and everything, a complete assembly is probably worth $150 for a used assembly. To give $129 for this much of it, nope, you're throwing away your money. What people are not understanding when we look at these milling machines, the shapers, and the lathes, is while they are American-made machines, and we do like our American-made machines, the reality is these machines have been well used. They are all well worn, and if you want a functional machine, why, you're better off buying something else, some sort of an import, because you can buy a complete import machine, brand new, which, yes, it is an import machine. Maybe it's not the quality of a original Atlas machine, although in some instances I've seen where they exceed them. Here recently I've been somewhat disappointed in one of my kind of go-to machines for an imported machine, but nonetheless, to give what they're wanting for these machines from a nostalgia standpoint, or a functional standpoint, you're better off with a new imported machine, in my opinion. If we can get these prices back down to where they should be, and like I say, a complete used gearbox assembly should be worth probably $150. But if you've only got parts of it, why, it doesn't do you any good. The horizontal milling machine, there's one down here we'll look at in a bit that they're wanting $3,100 for, and it's basically a parts machine. When you look at the horizontal milling machines especially, they are all well used. As I said in a previous video, I figure mine's only in about 70-75% at best, and mine's a pretty good looking machine, but actual function wise, 75% at the outside. You can buy, there's still some small horizontal milling machines, and I think they're in the less than $2,000 range for brand new ones. You have a far more functional machine than investing money in a used machine or used parts from Atlas, because these are beat to crap. So anyway, that's my spiel on machines. We'll try and keep it online with what we're looking at, but this is what we're seeing right here. It's not worth $129.99. You know, yes, they are somewhat rare, but not that rare, not that functional if you're only getting part of them. If you can, I'm not for parting out machines anyway, but to be given too much money for a partial assembly, and this isn't even a complete assembly that you can refurbish and put on your machine. This is only a partial assembly, so there's no sense in doing it. Just foolish. So let's go right on down. Atlas milling machine, boring head with 1 in 10 mount, super rare tool. Condition used, super rare tool. Okay, let's go down here. And Atlas milling machine, 1 3/4 inch boring head with direct 110 mount. So for a Atlas mill, and that's the only place it's going to be functional, is on the mill, we have a boring head, and it's got a 1 in 10 mount. So this is a small boring head, probably a very useful. We want $129.99 and $10.25 shipping. This is our same seller we just talked about. This is not a factory part. Here we'll look at and there's only a couple of pictures, and that's part of the problem we're seeing on what I'm seeing on these used parts from the seller, and he's got several listed right now. You're not getting a good indication of what you're buying. There's not enough pictures here. There's not enough information to make an informed decision. But I will tell you, this is not a factory boring head. I don't know that Atlas made one, and this may be someone's factory mount, or at least parts of it may be somebody's factory mount. The dial right there looks relatively good. It's got socket head cap screws locking, it looks like, the bar in. And that boring tool, I would say that's probably a shop-made boring tool. I would speculate this is probably a shop-made boring head from looking at it. Looks to be well made, but there's only 2 pictures here. You can see this picture. You can't tell how the slide mechanism is installed in there or what it's set up to be. And if we look at the second picture, we see a direct mount. But when we look at this direct mount, we can see the chatter marks where it was internally threaded. Now, there's nothing wrong with this, but that's one more indication that it was shop made, and those threads are awful clean and awful well set up for a used boring head. So I believe it is probably used, but I also believe it's a shop made product, and to be selling it off as a factory Atlas, and it doesn't say it's a factory Atlas part. So there's a bigger view of the whole thing. You can see the back end. There's a couple of dogs holes to accept a spanner wrench there. If that would have actually been an Atlas part from their history, they would have probably only put 1, possibly 2, but they would have been opposite each other and not in quadrants. Now, there may be a couple more on there too, who knows? And that doesn't detract from its usefulness or its function, but it tells me it's not originally Atlas. So same way here, we're seeing two spanner wrench holes there, and you can't tell how the slide mechanism is operated or anything about it. So this part to be Atlas milling machine boring head mount, super rare tool. Well, it's not a super rare tool. It's a shop-made tool that we could all make in our shops. There's several ideas for building boring heads out there and everything. Anybody that's got their own little shop can do this. Great shop project. You know, if we want to do something like that, why, that's fine. We can do that. This basically, I would speculate, is there's probably some sort of a slide, very probably a dovetail in the backside of that we're not able to see on this, that the boring head mount comes in. This screw is just going to be a manufactured screw, or some sort of a setup where it's got index graduations on. You can figure out what the threads per inch are on the thread. Probably a 40 thread per inch is a good option for these, to drive that dovetail. So useful tool, nice little setup. Is the cost really out of sight? Probably not, but it's something you can build. And in my mind, that's misrepresentative or misrepresented when we say it's a Atlas milling machine boring head. Yes, it fits, but so there we go. Right on down, same seller. Rare Atlas milling machine arbor overarm clamp assembly, new old stock, but it's listed as used. Two available, $100 a piece. This is the complete assembly for your overarm bars on the Atlas milling machine. For the drive assembly, there's only the one picture, which you don't need any more than the one. It does not look to be used. It looks to be pretty grimy in all the thread area. Everything looks pretty ragged. So yes, maybe it's been sitting on a shelf. Now let's go back and look at that bolt a little bit closer. Yeah, okay, that would be the proper bolt. It almost looked like a hex bolt there. But if we look at it fairly close, it's not a bad looking assembly. It's been kicking around a long time. I can't say that it has been used to lock an overarm in place, but there again, $100. Well, I build I build these three parts, and I think they sell, I don't remember exactly, I think they're on the website for about $15, $12, something like that. This is a piece of rubber hose that the front side's been cut off of. Now this is a square head bolt. I've made these parts to accept either a square head bolt, or I've shown how to use a hex head bolt, which is going to be the easiest thing to be replicated in the home shop. I don't have any in stock right now, but I was building these handle assemblies out of stainless steel, and they were in that, I think, $50 range. I'll have to go back and look, and I will have more of those in stock before too long. But if we look at replacements for that, and I honestly feel that from a functionality standpoint, the stainless handle is more robust than the Zamac handle that they've built. So if we count the dollars on that, $50 for that, another $15 for this and shipping, for probably $75 if you $60 or $75 if you source your own hex bolt and your own piece of rubber. For less than $80, you've got a brand new, little bit more functional part than what they're wanting $100 for a used original. And I go back to that same old thing. We are after functionality out of our machines. These are not collectible machines. For our own use, we can dress them up as nice as we want, but they are still intended to be a functional machine. These are not museum pieces. They're not left to be set and unused. These are functional pieces of equipment that we need to be able to use. So we need to keep them as original as we can, but we also need to have the functionality that we can put into these machines now, rather than just staying nostalgic. Okay, right on down the list. Same seller, rare Atlas milling machine 572 and 574A angular cutter with arbor in box. So let's see, what does it say here? Rare Atlas milling machine angular cutter with arbor 572 and 574A in original box. That's our description. Let's go back. There's only one picture. Let's go back and talk about the functionality of these. $100, $99.99, and $10.25 shipping. This is a ripoff. We have a arbor that's all, we do have the original box, and in my mind the original box probably has just as much, if not more, value than the cutter, but it's not worth $100 for the cardboard box. If we look at this arbor, look at the nice chew up marks on that arbor. The arbor and the interchangeable dovetail cutter. Atlas offered these arbors. You don't see them very often, but you can quite easily build your own, and you don't see them that often, and in reality they're not that useful in this day and age. We're looking at an arbor itself. It's got chew marks there. It's got striations going up and down where it's been pulled in and out of the machine. This has been well used and abused. And let's look at the cutter itself. Now this is a used cutter. It's going to be a dovetail cutter. Why in the world, from a functionality standpoint, or even an aesthetic or nostalgic standpoint, would you give $100 for a cutter that's been used and an arbor that's been abused, that you can buy a dovetail cutter for in that $30 range, and for the limited use that they're going to see, it doesn't do you any good. At best, you have a functional cutter that's probably pretty dull by this time. It's probably functional, and the arbor's functional, but it's old technology. If you need, like I say, you can buy a useful dovetail cutter for probably $30. So you can buy 3 cutters that are going to be useful and are going to probably serve you better than buying this used piece of crap. So Rare, big damn deal. Rip off is what that is. Rare Atlas milling machine shell and mill driver, M1 570 plus M1 585 shell mill in, it's going to say box, $149.99 and 1025 shipping. Might as well look at it too. At the very best, it's well used. Looking at that edge right there, why, you know, maybe it's a fairly sharp cutter, and I'm not opposed to buying used cutters. You know, I would latch onto this cutter given the opportunity that I could buy it for $15. Second picture shows the back end of it. You know, it's been used, it's been run. You got a little bit of corrosion, which isn't going to affect anything, but a little bit of markings there. This is no cherry, you know. It's foolish to give $149, $149.99 and 1025 shipping. No, makes no sense. That is a rip-off. There again, same seller. Same seller, same seller. Moving on. Rare Atlas milling machine arbor driver M1 567, excellent used, $99.99 and 1025 shipping. I'm not going to dwell on this. This is a good looking arbor driver, been used. Look how grungy it is there. Second picture shows the back of it. A little bit of a dink on that bottom corner where it's been dropped. Nothing wrong with this arbor. Fully functional arbor. 2 available, $99.99 and 1025 shipping. Same seller. And it just says rare in the bottom. They're not rare. You see quite a few of them in that $60 range. My reproductions are what, 55 or 60, something in that neighborhood. No sense in buying in this instance. No sense in buying this used crap for $110. No. You're being ripped off if you do that. Rare Atlas milling machine arbor support M160, excellent used. Excellent. I see I've been gone away for a week, and now everything is once again excellent. $199 and 1025 shipping. They made about 3 different versions of this arbor support. And right off the top of my head, I can't tell you which one. Part of these were split. Part of them used a split cotter, which this one uses a split cotter inside it. Used excellent. If it was excellent, the paint wouldn't all be chipped off of it. The bearing wouldn't be, or the bushing wouldn't be scored inside it there. You see all that scoring inside the bushing. Needs to be replaced. We can look at the second picture. A little bit of staining there on the bottom. Maybe, maybe not. Looks like the backside has been polished a little bit, but that's pretty ugly. All grungy down through the threads, which don't matter. This is going to be a functional part, but I've seen a lot of guys use these. I built patterns for these, but I haven't cast any. I've kind of been waiting until I start casting cast iron. $199 and 1025 shipping. That's a $75 part. You know, I realize they're being listed here for more than that, but that's a $75 part. If you give more than that, you're being taken advantage of. All right, now here's another one. Now there's a couple of things here, and these are from this seller. Rare Atlas milling machine M1-560L cutter arbor 1-inch, excellent used, pre-owned, $249.99 and $18 shipping. I believe we will find, yep, same seller, condition used. Rare and complete Atlas milling machine M1-560L 1-inch cutter arbor. That's all it says. It doesn't add that excellent thing in there. We got 2 pictures. There again, we're not being given enough information. If we look at the big pictures on these, looks a little brown. Looks really brown through here. And we'll go back and look at these pictures a little bit closer. Looks to be complete. I have no doubt this is probably a Atlas arbor, 1-inch arbor. You don't see too many used arbors. Here's the other end. And this is before we actually zoom in on it. Now, it looks like we've got quite a bit of actually heavy corrosion on this spacer. Doesn't affect function at all. Looks like we've got a little bit of actual corrosion through here, not just junk. It looks like maybe we've got a little bit of corrosion through there. And looking at the big picture, I see these marks where it's been slid in the arbor. And from looking at them this way, probably spun in the arbor or in the mount. This accepts our drawbar threaded 3/8/16 in that end. Let's go back and look at these a little bit closer. Now, the problem I have with this is we don't get to see the arbor. We do not get to see the actual arbor itself. And when we look at this, there you can see the marks on the Morse taper down there where it's been slid in and out at an angle. Now, if this is set into the arbor with the driver, you're not going to have a twisted markings on there where it's been twisted in and out of its Morse taper. So a lot of common practice with these guys, and they say it works fine, is if they don't have an arbor driver, they'll just pull them in with the drawbar and set them there. I think that's not a good idea because I think this has probably been spun in the Morse taper. So we go on from that. This first spacer is corroded, and that's a fairly heavy corrosion in there. And then we've got staining on the rest of these on the outside. Now, that really doesn't make a bit of difference functionality wise. You see a little bit of markings on this end. I don't think that's that big a deal either. What we're not seeing is the condition of the arbor itself underneath those spacers. If we're seeing corrosion on the outside, and I could be wrong, but if we're not willing to have, if the information is not shared with us, I'm suspect of the condition of that underneath. So I don't know what we're going to see underneath there. So I'm going to say that's a pass. In this condition, I would speculate on this arbor for probably $100. Would be a decent price for it. But is it excellent? Nope, we're being lied to. You know, and I'm done pandy-assing around and saying, well, we may not be being told all the information, or something may have been omitted. We're being lied to. Okay. Rare Atlas milling machine, M1300 swivel vise with handle. Now this down here, this is the handle that they've been that the seller's been trying to get $129 for now. And this is probably a used handle from looking at it. Do I know that for certain? No, I don't. So anyway, it's got the mounting bolts. I believe this is probably an original milling vise. So let's look at the big pictures first before we do anything else. What do we see? Grungy, which is normal. You know, I mean, you're going to see that. I'm not dinking on it because it's dirty down inside or something like that. You expect to see that. Got the mounting bolts with the nuts to hold it down. Looks to actually be in pretty good condition. There's the first picture. And like I say, this is the handle that he's selling the Martin reproductions, or trying to, for $129.99 and shipping. A little bit dark on the bottom there again. Not that unusual. Been mounted on a table. You can see where the staining ends here, you know, on that edge. So I think it's probably a pretty good vise. You see a little bit of down here. Now that may very well just be casting flaws. It's quite often with Atlas you'll see casting flaws down here that don't quite fill up when they're cast, and they don't affect anything. So there's the big pictures. Let's go back and look at it a little bit closer, see if we see anything we're seeing here. Seeing a fair amount of markings there. You know, a little bit of corrosion out there on the end of the handle. Good functional vise. You know, I don't see anything that I'm going to trash on because it's really bad. The screw threads for the lead screw are pretty grunged up down there and probably not in the greatest condition. Those are usually pretty sloppy on all of this stuff. You know, pretty decent vise. One of the cleaner vices that I've seen, probably, as far as actual condition, not been marked across the jaws on top and things like that we normally see. Is it worth $500 and $18 shipping? Hell no. You know, These vices, while they're a neat vise, and I do like the original vices both for the mill and the shaper, um, if it comes to functionality, as opposed to giving $200 for a used Palmgren or something like that, or giving $500 for a factory vise, I'm going to pick the Palmgren for utility. And I don't like doing stuff like that. I would rather have an original vise. But this vise is worth 250 bucks. That's all they're worth. If you're giving more than that, you're being ripped off. Same seller, rare Atlas milling machine M161 arbor support bracket, excellent use, $229.99 and $25.62 shipping. I'm telling the same story. This is one of the support brackets. It's functional. It's going to be a good functional one. $229.99 and $25.62 shipping. Corroded like crazy up there on top, you know. And on these, when I say corroded, it's possible that these are just stained up pretty bad. But if all it is staining, these sellers would normally clean them off so they look better. So I'm going to suspect that that in there right on the sides of the slot is corrosion. Same way along the edges of it where the paint's missing. You know, if it was excellent, the paint wouldn't be missing there. That's corrosion along there. You know, functional, there's nothing wrong with it as far as functionality. Is it excellent? Nope, it's not excellent. There again, look at that. Now, that right along the edge is probably, I don't know, you know, on the inside right there next to the bore, that may just be staining, that may be corrosion on there. Those will collect a lot of oil and yuck down there on that bottom edge where it mounts, just because that's kind of below the table level, and if you're using cutting fluid or lubricant, why, it's going to kind of run that way. But there again, value-wise, 150 bucks on a good day. That one, 100 bucks. 100 bucks. And it's sure as hell not excellent. They're lying to you. Okay, let's get away from that seller. Atlas M121B milling machine shaft pulley assembly. Now this is the counter shafts, the mounting brackets, 4 on the back of the milling machine, $375 and $17.10 shipping, and it benefits charity. Now, while I think that's a good cause to say it benefits charity, how much of it does it, you know, are we giving half of that to charity? Because that's about what that assembly is worth, is about half of that, 150 bucks. Let's look at the big pictures on this. Let's not spend a whole lot of time. Corrosion down through here has been kept in a wet environment. We got staining on the castings. All that rust showing on the castings, and I say staining, that's actually rust that's on those castings. This has been stored in a damp or a wet environment. You know, it's not worth what we're asking for it. Rust on the handle, you know, rust on this outer. So what paint or primer is on here is pretty thin and been well used and abused. The handle looks pretty faded out. You know, it does have the bar and the clip that hold the guard, or the guard snaps in place. If we go back and look at these, well, let's see, this is a little bit better picture. Yeah, all this corrosion, this is not. Now what do we got here? We've got a tensioning screw or a stop screw that's busted off, it looks like. So that's busted, no lock nut there. That set screw's been backed out. Now why have we backed that out and left it backed out? Because that's where your pulley would ride. Being stored damp and looking at the conditions of these pulleys, they're starting to deteriorate. I had looked at this yesterday, and we'll have to look closer, but yeah, all the paint's gone on these, or enough of the paint's gone that it's rusting through. This is a piece of crap. You know, functional, yes. Is it going to fall apart tomorrow? No, it's not. You're going to be able to utilize this, but it's not a, what did we say, $375. All paint's peeling or chipping and gone down through here. This has been kicking around for an awful long time. What are we looking at right there? We'll have to go back and look at these pictures a little bit closer. See, this latch clip has been bent out. That sets in a flat on the back side of that shaft and is locked in with, there's 2 panhead slotted head screws on top, and these are the lock nuts on the bottom. This would have been flat coming out here, so it's got corrosion on it and then been bent out. This is a piece of junk. From a functional standpoint, 150 bucks. That's all it's worth, 150 bucks. Let's go back and look at a couple of these closer. Yeah, they want 375 and 1710. Let's, just for grins and giggles, let's add this to the watch list and see if somebody decides they're going to come back and make us an offer on this. Let's look at a couple of these. Yeah, see, it's all corroded down there as it's going through the shaft. That shaft may or may not work. And this will clean up, you know, I mean, don't get me wrong, this will clean up and be a functional part. But there again, look inside that pulley on the back on the right-hand side. There's some, this is going to start to deteriorate. Well, it's already started to deteriorate. Yeah, see, there should, that stud's busted off. There should be a lock nut on there like there is on that side. So that's probably snapped off in there. That's going to have to be addressed. All that corrosion there that you're looking at on the shafts and on in the end. You look at the deterioration in that pulley, and it's going to continue to deteriorate. That's a pretty ugly setup. Now that set screw sticking out there, looking at how corroded it is and everything in there as it sets in, it's probably been backed out at some point or tried to be backed out, and it's going to be seized in there. All of these set screws in this Zamac, when it starts to deteriorate, you can't tell a whole lot from this one, but you can see a little flecking down inside there on the upper right corner of that inner hub. That's deterioration underneath. I guess that latch is where it's supposed to be, but it's this is a pretty ragged looking piece of equipment. This is not something I'm going to even think about investing money in. This is probably, this is on a good day, this is 150 bucks for everything there. All that corrosion, you try and take those out, those screws are going to bust off, which is no big deal, but they are going to be, you're going to bust them off and have to extract whatever's left and replace them. Spring's gone on that Gitz oiler, looks like. Probably neither of them in real good shape, but that one on the right, it's, you can look at the cap being lifted up a little bit, it's probably busted off there. So this is a fine piece of junk here. 150 bucks, less than half of what they want. This is a fairly new seller. He's got some feedback there to where he probably knows what's going on too. Milling machine attachment, I'm not even going to bother to look. We talked about them. Now here's the Atlas milling machine that I talked about in the last little Fleabay edition that I said had been pulled down. And I'll put a link to the first part of that so you can go back and look at that if you want. I have some other footage of this that I shot. I was going to release as a part 2. And I think what I'm going to do is I'll just sit on that, and as I have time, I will compile all of the things that I have about this particular mill and put it in a things to watch out for when you're looking for a milling machine. I've done, I think, one of those before, but this mill is so ragged that it's got a lot of things to look at that I think you should be looking at when you're looking for a mill. Now this is a seller that's been around. I've ragged on him before. Description reads, Atlas horizontal mill, fully refurbished, outstanding, with vice arbors and cutters. Fully disassembled and fully refurbished, every bolt and screw. Runs perfectly, outstanding machine. No cracks, repairs, or surprises in the mill. Comes complete. Only issue is the mill vise has long ago been repaired once with a braze, but has been used many years since and holds like new. And he does not accept returns. Price, $3,100. Let's add that to the watch list, just because we can. $3,100 for this piece of crap. Now let's look at the big pictures, and if we need to, we'll go back and look at it a little bit more. That's not an original handle right there. That is somebody's replacement. This is the same replacement handle it looks like on the Atlas mill that I found pictures of on the internet that I believe to be this mill from about, I don't know, what did I say, 2010 or something like that. Anyway, so that's not an original handle there. And we're going to look at the things that are not original on this. And we say fully refurbished and perfect and all that good stuff. The switch plate is not original. So there was no switch on the other, or on the previous picture of the mill that I had. So I'm assuming that this is, the switch is replaced too, which is fine. And the mill that I saw did not have this tag. Now, one of the things that stood out to me on the other picture is it did not have a tag on it. So I believe that that particular mill, when this seller got it and refurbished it supposedly, I believe a mill was stuck on, or a tag was stuck on there. I do not believe this to be the original tag if my theory is correct on this. So he just had a tag of some sort and put it on here. And my concern with this is, and it flagged before I found the other picture, to me, this tag, there's not a close-up picture of it. Now, if you're selling a machine and you're putting a whole line of pictures on here, you're going to show the tag with a serial number. That's pretty much common practice. All these sellers know that. So I believe this is probably not the proper tag that goes on here. And from far away, you can't see that much. Let's go ahead and zoom in on this picture and see if it tells us anything else. See, there's that handle that doesn't look quite right to me. There is no... there's no trip dogs on the front of the table, which is fairly common. It's not very often you see those trip dogs. But if it was as complete as it's being, you know, sold as supposedly, I would have thought that it would have had those. Now, the cross feed for the table, that bearing that it rides on, that's an earlier model, which is, it's got the taper on it, and right in the kind of the center of the picture. The later models that accepted an arbor support were a straight 1-inch shaft or outer shank coming out there, so you clamp that arbor support on there. So this was an earlier machine. Most of the earlier machines that I have seen, there's no arbor support running through here. There's no bar. There is a drive dog there on the spindle. It does have the lock handles for the arbor bar that goes through there. Now, what the condition of those are, or you know exactly what you're getting there, you can't tell from the pictures. The hole right there below and the threaded hole in the upper right, where the spindle support would go through, or the 1.5-inch bar would go through, it would have originally accepted the cover that goes over the arbor, or it goes over the arbor support bar, and then the little handle that locks that in position. This would have originally had those, since it does have both the holes, the 1/4 20 threaded and the other just straight one, that except the stub that comes off of that cover. So those are missing. The cover plates look like they're earlier brass plates, which is very possible. Let's go back to the bigger pictures and point them out. There you've got a pretty good view of that switch cover. That's not even close to being original there. So that flags to me when we look, and you can't tell from these smaller pictures, but this is the later style back gear lever, which has a little plunger in it right there. So that would, you know, that was later than the early styles, which just had an internal detent. And this is the shaft on that bearing support. This, on the later models, would have been a 1-inch straight shank to accept an arbor bar going up there. So that's what I see in the first picture. This is a piece of junk vise they're selling with it. Now, why? You know, the only thing wrong with this is not even close to being original. This is a piece of crap. That's what this is. And if we look at this arbor that comes with it, that's certainly not a factory arbor. That's somebody's homemade something or other. And that's all that is. You know, that has no real value. So that's what stands out to me there. Looks like there is a complete gearbox and everything. The earlier pictures that I had of this, that I found that I believe to be this mill, did not have any of the table feed assembly. This was all gone. The shaft was gone. And I think these shafts would have originally been painted with the mill. You know, I believe I've seen them to be painted. That stands out to me a little bit more. There we can see we're missing the arbor support bar. This hole is what supported the overarm, and there would have been a lock that came right down here, which would have been a smaller version of this handle with a stud on it that locked that overarm into place. That's what we see there. Moving right onto the back side. This knob looks to be a replacement knob, probably somebody's turned knob. I don't believe that's really original. Like I say, I believe this shaft was painted on the original ones. Let's go back and look at this a little closer. I don't see anything that really stands out to me from this view. See, I believe that knob's been changed. The adjustment nut that's on the right hand side right in front of that knob, I believe that was just a thin knob there. There again, the plates on the side that gives the speeds, and then the table feet, those are the earlier model brass ones, brass plates. You know, paint's pretty well wore off of them and everything. There's nothing there. So that's what I see in that picture. There again, that piece of crap vise. Why would you even think about that? The screws that hold that access door onto the front of the spindle, that's got the speed chart on it, those were originally, I believe, some sort of a bolt that went through there. Looks like there's some sort of a button head cap screw or something that way on there. So that's certainly not original. And some of these are improvements that, well, I won't say improvements, but they're things that as an individual you might want to replace for your own, you know, for use in your own shop to make them to at least be what you consider a little more utilitarian. But to sell these in excellent condition and fully refurbished is not a refurbishment. This has been modified. So let's look at the big picture so we can look at a couple of things. Now this is the later style back gear handle. There again, there's the plunger knob. The earlier models like my mill did not have this. My MF did not have this knob in here. There's a detent underneath the bigger section of the spring-loaded detent that locks into cutouts in the casting. This knob is not original. This is somebody's replacement. This would have originally been one of the small angle knobs. You will see these on the gib locks, both here, down here under the table, and pretty much the same one here. Now the studs sticking out of them are a little bit different in length, but otherwise they're the same size and design of handle. From this view, I don't think there's anything that really stands out. What's it look like up close here? I think we're on to the next picture. Here we go. Yeah, nothing there stands out to me that we haven't already talked about. Earlier style Alice knobs. So this gearbox is an earlier gearbox on here. Earlier gearbox. Handle's been, you know, I can't really beat up on that handle. That, I believe, is a later style pressed handle from looking at this, although I could be mistaken. See, I don't believe that little nut down there is an original nut. I think that's somebody's iteration of what that they think that should be. That U-joint's been used and abused a fair amount, it looks like. Now on our speed chart here, we see a motor pulleys two position, an A and a B, to give you 412 and 1060 depending on your belt position. If we look farther down here, yeah, actually this belt's been changed. We've only got a single shift belt there, it looks like. Well, it doesn't look like it, it definitely is. That's not an original belt, or an original pulley. And I'm assuming we've got the same thing on the motor. because, and this is a later style belt guard. This has got the two-piece side guard with the flip up top. There's nothing wrong with that. That may be original to this machine. The earlier machines had a one-piece guard on this side, which was quite a bit narrower, but this has all been changed out. This is not the original pulleys here. The other pulley may or may not be original. It probably is. It looks like a later model pulley from looking at the inside of that casting where the webbing is. At least the earlier, if they are original, Atlas pulleys had some. You'd see some little round nubbins in there where they were ejected from the permanent mold, right in there. Oh, and if we go back there again, this pad would have had a little bit. That would have been a little metal clip that latched down into or on top of the headstock. So that's missing, and they just replaced that with some sort of a little pad. Probably just as utilitarian as the original, but it's not original. They're missing that piece that's supposed to be there. This, to me, I decided must be an overarm support, although I'm not sure. This is somebody's homemade piece of crap. It's got a homemade fly cutter there, is what that appears to be. No great shakes there. I believe that's probably straight shank rather than a Morse tape or anything, although that could be hard to tell. You can't tell from the pictures, plus they're all rusted up. You've got a end mill holder there, it's all scarred to crap and rusty and piece of shit. Same way with, there's the back end of that homemade arbor with the tang. It's all beat up and chewed up. Not even close to being original. There would have been two drive dog cutouts on the step up there rather than just the side being ground away. So that's nothing that's worth having. The gearbox looks okay. There's no paint or anything on any of that. So that was replaced at one time. You can't really tell what's going on the bottom side of that table. Looks like there's, I don't know if that's casting defects, if that's corrosion. I'm not sure what the deal is there, but this is this is about an $800 mill is what this is. There's no way this is worth $3,100 bucks. Now this has got a Craftsman motor on it. Scabby looking motor. This will not be original. This is entirely a parts machine as far as I'm concerned. If it would have been a Craftsman mill, which is still the Atlas mill, but if it would have been sold by Craftsman, then I would say this could have been the original motor to it. I don't believe it is. I believe this is a motor he had sitting around, and he slammed it on this machine with how many other, used parts he had laying around. This should have been a Atlas badged. If this was original, since it's got Atlas badging on it, it should have had an Atlas motor on it. So this is a conglomeration of parts that they slammed on here from inside the. And you can see looks like there's some teeth gone there on that gear. It looks like. That gear I can't see. It looks too bad. There'll be two oil ports, Gitz oil ports up in this headstock, and that may be one of them we're looking at there on the right. When these are reassembled, the dust covers have to be in the proper orientation because there's some notches in them. They have to point upward, and otherwise your bearings won't oil. So who knows if this has been reassembled correctly? Who knows if it was actually even disassembled to the point where it was where those were taken out. You don't know what the story is on those. There's that piece of junk vise. That's a piece of crap. Piece of crap. There again, you're looking at the other end of that arbor right there, and that may be another driver. They made two, or end mill holders. They made two end mill holders, but you look and it looks like the holes all ogled out on that one, along with the normal corrosion and everything that we're seeing on it. This is a piece of junk. This is an $800 machine, and then you're going to tear it apart and redo it. So there we go. And I will link the first Fleabay edition that matches this one. So there we go there. And I don't think there's anything else that we need to look at. But boy, we spent a lot of time just looking on this mill junk that they're selling. The junk. Junk. Okay, let's look at Atlas shapers very quickly. We got that same rare milling machine vise for $500. That's a rip-off. I don't think there's anything else here that's even. Nothing there I see that's. What was that? Nope, nothing else there that's even worth looking at. Atlas lays. faceplate, brand new, 130 bucks. Atlas Craftsman 8.5-inch faceplate, 1.5, 8. South Bend part number 9, 365, 129.99. Seller with a lot of feedback. I'm sure I've seen him before, but not anything I really recognize. Okay, so this is coming out of California. This is very probably, it says Atlas brand. Nice shape is shown for a 10-inch. Says model is Atlas Craftsman, says brand is Atlas. We'll just look at these pictures very quickly in this state because I'm not going to be able to tell. I would almost speculate. Well, they've got an Atlas number on the back of them. Threads in the back look kind of ragged there. This to me has the look and smell of a Chinese import. Now, maybe they are being imported by Atlas. Maybe someone is putting Atlas numbers on castings that they're having done overseas. I honestly don't know. To me, that would not surprise me. I'm not going to take the time to really investigate what the seller's doing at this point in time. He may be doing reproductions and doing them on a level to where he's having castings imported. This could be a Atlas Craftsman faceplate. There again, though, $129.99 and free shipping, free 3-day shipping. Even if it is an original for $129, that's I consider to be too much money. There's other that are going to be that same quality, even if they are an import, for less money. Okay, there's a couple parts from a seller that's been parting out stuff that I have bought for before. And I'm not even going to look at them. They're pre-owned parts. There may be some decent prices there. Now we have a Atlas 10-450 tool post grinder, machinist metal lathe 10450, pre-owned, $289.99. Buy it now with free shipping. Now, this is a tool post grinder. There's a few of these floating around. You see them if you're looking for them, where they'll pop up. The thing to bear in mind with these Atlas tool post grinders, and I do not have one. I would, if I found one for a decent price, I would probably buy it. But the thing to bear in mind is, back to that same old thing, these have been around for years and years. They have been in a grinding environment. I would speculate that they are going to have bearings replaced, and I do not know. I have not gone back and looked to see what they've got for bearings in them. Estate sale fine comes with what you see in the pictures. Please look at all pictures for condition. Seems to be in normal working condition. I speculate that all of these Atlas tool post grinders are going to be well worn. I think the spindle is going to be well worn on these. I think the majority of them are functional, but are they conducive to turning really, really accurate tolerances? And I don't think they are. $289.99, no, because, well, let's just look at the big pictures. We spent so much time here. The first thing that pops to mind is the motor's been changed. That is not an actual factory Atlas motor on there. It's, as we see later, it's a ball door motor. Tool post grinder, got the paperwork with it, grungy as it may be, and chances are the spindle and condition of the machine, of the tool post grinder, is in about the same condition as the paperwork for it. Got some grinding wheels, may or may not be any good, you know, depending on what they are. Got the guard on it. And for the most part, I believe it is, other than the motor, I think it probably is all original. It looks to be in original condition, but it's pretty ragged looking. You know, this is something that's been pretty well used and abused. All the guards are there, it looks like. It's a belt. The belt actually, well, the belt is, it almost looks like that motor has a, there may be a 2-speed pulley on that. maybe. In which case that is probably very functional. Paint's chipped, everything is pretty well used and abused. I don't see, let's see, the badging for that guard would be on the other side of it. There's our ball door motor. So motor's not original, which we've already discussed. We know it's not. Mounting for the guard, you can't tell yet if the badging's on the guard. There was 2 badges on the side of that guard, and they're missing both of them. Of course, I don't see the mounting holes either. These originally had a model tag, one of the rectangular tags, or the ones that I've seen in the guard that I have, had the rectangular identification tag, plus it had the round Atlas badge on it. And this one has neither of those badging. On the guards that I reproduce, I drilled holes for those badges to go back on there. But not, that cord looks pretty ragged there. I believe, looking at it had I think the originals had a little toggle switch on the belt, just like this one does have. Yeah, I think it's pretty much original with the exception of the motor. It looks to be in good rebuildable condition, but you know, maybe $200, maybe on a good day. I don't know. I wouldn't give more than that for it, and I'd be a whole lot more comfortable in that $150 range, although they normally bring more than that. Yeah, see, they would have originally had that toggle switch on them to control. The ones I've seen had that style switch. But yeah, good rebuild candidate, but not for that much money. And I think they got a bunch of change gears here, $24.99, $24.99 is $6 shipping. We talked about that before. You know, any of these change gears you should have in your door for less than 25 bucks. I'm thinking less than 20. I'm not giving any more for change gears other than shipping and everything included, about 19 or 20 bucks. I'm just not paying more for that than that. I'll reproduce my own other than that. My Atlas Craftsman 618 101 6-inch lathe carriage saddle gib, $24.99 and $5.95 shipping. Talked about that before. These are actually just a flat gib, and the seller's been around. They're just a flat piece of cold roll stock. Works just fine with four detent holes in there. You know, they cost you about $8 to build probably, and that's if you're generous and buy a long piece of stock. You know, bevel the edges a little bit. We can do that if we need to, but these are certainly not worth. Yeah. 6-inch gib. You know, if I was buying this, I might give $10 for it. $10 and $3 shipping. That's it. Change gear bushings, bunch of guards. Now see, these sellers are playing off the nostalgia benefit for the home shop guys. We look at the prices they want for guards for our 10-inch lathes and even the 12-inch and the 6-inch and stuff, and a lot of times they'll want $50 and $60 for them. Right here is a commercial Atlas Craftsman 12-inch lathe, change gear, guard, and hinge, 342-030 and 041-118. They want $24.99 and $17.99 shipping. For less than $50, you're getting a replacement guard for one of the commercial machines. Yet for the 10 inches, they're wanting $40 and $50 at least, plus shipping on top of that. The commercial machine should be at least as much, if not more, for replacement parts than these old hobby machines. So why are we paying big bucks for them? We just need to quit. That's all there is to it. We just need to quit. 12-inch metal lathe steady rest, L3-326 pre-owned, $200 or best offer and $31 shipping. Ripping us off. ripping us off. And as long as we allow them to rip us off, they're going to continue to do so. 12-inch metal lathe, upper and lower door guard assembly, hinge brackets. All these are is brackets. $99.99, buy it now. Good used parts. Yep. 30 bucks. 30 bucks. 30 bucks, 30 bucks, 30 bucks. People are smoking dope. If you pay it, you're foolish. So let's keep driving these prices down. Now here's a metal lathe change, dry guard cover, and this is the 10-inch. It says 12-inch too. You know, 20 bucks, and buy it now, and $24.81 shipping. Not even going to go in and look at it. It's probably worth that. Although I look at the outside, there's no Atlas badge on it. They've stripped the Atlas badge off and probably sold it separately. So is it worth that? I don't know. Atlas Craftsman 12-inch metal lathe, empty carriage, apron only, 10F-9A or L-69A, S199 pre-owned, $99.99 in free shipping. Let's look at this one. Now this is a Craftsman, so which is the Atlas machine, but it was sold by Craftsman. The seller I've noticed earlier here, and we'll just look at let's just look at the zoom in on these pictures here and look at them, see what I see. All of these bores and all of these bushing holes. Now see, this hole here was probably, I don't believe that was originally bushed, so it's worn out so bad that somebody's at some point gone back and put a bushing in that, which is a good option to refurbish these, but that's not going to be original. This is already worn out before they started reworking it. I see a socket head cap screw up top to hold that on. That's, well, neither here nor there. But all of these bores are probably well worn. So, you know, these aprons, in any condition that they say they are, these are worth 20 bucks on the outside. 20 bucks and about $10 shipping. Any more than that, what's it say for the description? Let's see what lies the seller's telling us. Oh yeah, this is one that pisses me off. I'm in the process of parting out a complete working Craftsman Atlas 12-inch metal cutting lathe, minus 3 broken aluminum gears that I will not list. This is a great opportunity for those needing good parts from a running lathe. At the end of the listing, I will list the model numbers these parts should work on. Also, I will list the exact part numbers of these parts from the manual so you can reference that if you are unsure. This is a good used empty apron for the Atlas Craftsman 12-inch lathe. It has the 3 ball oilers in it and 2 socket Allen head cap screws. No other parts in this. The casting shows 10F-9A. The parts list calls it a L6-9A. This lot includes L6-9A carriage apron with oilers, 2 Allen socket cap screws, 3/8/16 by 1 1/4, and built-in ball oilers. And he gives a bunch of other descriptions of what it should fit. You know, he's parted out a good machine, thinking he can get big bucks out of it. That apron's worth 20 bucks. That's all it's worth. You know, I don't care what anybody says. 20 bucks on the outside, no more than that. Let's look at the back side. Bushing installed there. You know, this is going to be able to be made functional. Looks like that hole is ogled out pretty good. Maybe not, but from looking at the picture, it looks like that's not quite true to the world. Same way with that upper one. Looks like it may be a little bit out around there. And it may be fine, but not for 100 bucks. One of these completely reworked with bushings put back in and everything, if the job was done properly, is probably worth 100 bucks. But for I tore it off of a functioning machine and I'm ripping you off for 100 bucks, no, it's not worth that. Not even close. Not even close. Yeah, see, these were all 3 1/2-inch holes. That's probably proper for those. But that one's been bushed. Nope. Nope, nope, nope. Rip you off bad. Okay. nothing else here really grabs my attention. 10-12 inch lathe tailstock oil dropper 10D-260 $24.99. Buy it now. Now I'll bet this is the same. No, this is a seller I recognize, but I will try, and this is an original. Here's his first picture. There's his second picture. And I'll leave it to you to decide if they're worth that or not. Now, I reproduce these using a stainless steel head on them. Atlas Craftsman tailstock oil dropper. If you're looking for a particular part, let me know. I will be listing parts until I get bored or I leave to go fishing. Well, there's a dedicated seller. I'll throw a few things out there and let some sucker buy them while I go fishing. And I've seen this same listing from this seller before, not this particular listing for oil dropper, but this is the way he lists his parts. So, you know, I got nothing else to do. I'll see if I can suck you into supporting my fishing habit without me putting forth any effort. $24.99 and free shipping, free 4-day shipping. Seller does not accept returns. I will try and take a couple of pictures of my reproductions. I think I sell them for about the same amount of money for a new reproduction. The top section I build out of stainless. These are an easy turning and everything, so you can decide if you'd rather have one of these on your machine, which is original, or if you would like to have a reproduction for about the same money that I think is a better product. 12-inch metal lathe, apron, miter gear, lead screw drive, etc. Yeah, this is the guy that's parting out the machine that we just talked about. I'm not even going to look. I don't even care. I think he's charging too much. So anyway, that gives you an idea of what's out here. You know, they're really being excessive with all their stuff, and they started out with all this shit about rare again. Excellent, excellent and rare. Excellent and rare. So I think I will leave this right here. Hopefully you find this a little bit informative. Comments, suggestions, leave them in the comments section for me below. Just be informed about these parts. I'll be following this stuff up again pretty close, and we'll continue to call out these sellers. And like I say, I've only been gone for a week and they started listing stupid crap again. So anyway, comment suggestions, leave them in the comments section for me below, guys. You have a good weekend, because we are almost there. And as always, thanks for taking the time to watch.